Welcome back, Riley. Bear with me while I'm trying to get this all this nice. No worries. Let's see. Okay, I think this will work. Were you able to get the pattern adjusted?
I think so. I'm gonna try cutting it out again in muslin and seeing how it looks.
Great. You still, well, you only need a small piece. We're going to start draping today. So
Okay, I'll get that ready.
welcome, welcome, Ava. We are waiting for one more. We will get started. You still have your piece of 1/2 inch muslin from last time? Or 1/2 yard, 18 inch. Sorry, let me switch cameras so that you can see my face instead of my just my torso. Let's see. Where's the buttons? There you go. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Does everyone still have their 1/2 yard tear of muslin from last week?
Yeah.
Great. We are going to be playing with that today. Okay, welcome back to Fashion Draping, our second week. So today we're going to prep our fabric for our drape. So we're going to do our first official draping. I mean, we did last week, but our first block draping is going to start today. My twill tape didn't arrive, so I'm going to just kind of switch that lesson a little bit later. And so it didn't arrive for me. It didn't arrive for the store, so no one could pick it up. So we'll move that when that happens. I don't know. I ordered it over a week ago. It usually is like a 2-day thing, but anyways, we're going to start with our first draping. We're going to be draping our front and back bodice, and then we're going to be marking our front and back bodice. So I want us to take our time. This is definitely a process where I'm going to demonstrate as best I can with my camera. I'm going to pull this a little bit closer. I'll figure out which camera is best so that you can see it most clearly. And basically, we're going to drape the fabric and create a sheath over our dress form that comes just to the waist, from the high point shoulder to the waist from the front and back. Excuse me. And then we're going to learn how to mark it. So today you're going to need at least a pencil. I'm going to be using what's called Taylor's wax or Taylor's chalk right here. So this is a very waxy chalk that leaves a line that's permanent, so this is not one that you use while you're sewing. This is one you use while you're draping. This is nice and thick, so you should be able to see everything. Okay. And then we'll have time for our first project. So just to get started, we are going to take our 44 or 36 inch by 18 piece, and we're going to cut it in half. So I'm pressing mine out now to get it nice and smooth. Get these things out of here. Okay, so I am pressing my 18-inch wide fabric, nice and flat to begin with. And then I'm going to simply tear it in half so that I have two pieces, roughly 22 by 18 inches. I want to start off with a nice press piece so that I don't have any wrinkles getting in the way. So it's really important when we're draping to have a nice flat piece of muslin that's nicely pressed just to begin with. That way, all of our marks are true and none of them are accidental, like just wrinkles in the fabric. Once I've done that, I'm going to find my halfway mark, make a clip, and tear it in half. And I will true the fabric. And what I mean by true is make sure that the lines on the fabric, so our cross grain, our warp, are perpendicular to each other and are not skewing one way or another. If they are, you can pull from either corner or from opposing corners and true the fabric like that. So you just want to have just about, I gotta true it back because it was perfect before. There you go. We just want to see nice perpendicular lines on our fabric. There we go. Pardon me while I adjust the camera. And if you have a actually, I need everyone to grab a mechanical pencil once their fabric is pressed, because we are going to mark our fabric before we begin to pin it on our form.
Wait, sorry, I had to recut my muslin. How big is half a yard?
That's 18 inches. That's a great question. So a yard is 36 inches or 3 feet, and a half yard will be 18 inches. Whoa.
I'll be doing half of all the measurements you say, right?
I would say so.
Okay.
I think half sounds good for your half size dress form.
Okay.
Yeah, it should be. Taking the time to prepare your fabric is really important. It's how we're going to get the most accurate drape. And make sure you have your mechanical pencil so that when Ashley is finished cutting her fabric and pressing it, that we can all move forward. Are you ready, Ashley?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. So now that we have our fabric all neatly pressed and we have our pieces, we need to mark our pieces so that we can follow or take our drape off and put it on a piece of pattern paper. And we will find that we'll do something a little different on one side than the other. And it's just kind of normal, it's natural. So it's just the way it is. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a mechanical pencil. I'm using a pen just so that it shows up more. And I'm going to right in the center on my cross grain, because that's gonna be my longer direction. So for this is a 22-inch. I'm gonna find a space in between two yarns. I'm going to simply stay on, oh, it's better with a pencil. Hold on, yeah, I can feel my pen slipping, so give me a second, I'm gonna get a pencil. But I'm gonna essentially mark my center seam. I'm gonna make a straight line all the way down once I can find my pencil bag. And I say mechanical because you have more control about the width of the tip. And you're just going to find that one yarn, and you'll find that you'll be able to keep your pencil in that one yarn and stay on grain and follow it all the way down. I realize that you cannot see this, but I want you to feel for that little channel. The pencil is so light on this, so that's why I wanted to do it with the pen, but my pen was too wide. And I'm going to simply follow the grain, stay right in the channel of that grain, and I'm going to go from one side all the way to the other. Being very careful to feel that I'm staying in that channel, and you can't see at all because the camera isn't good enough, but I can see that my grain line is slightly skewed because despite staying in that channel the whole time, my line is slightly going off to the side, which means I can skew my fabric to get the grain line perfect again before I put it on my dress form. This takes a little bit of practice, but I want you to attempt it. And after trying to attempt it with your pencil, your mechanical pencil, a 0.5 lead is the most ideal because it's the finest. I want you to go all the way across. And if you find you just cannot do it for this exercise, don't stress about it. We will have plenty of times for you to attempt this. So by the end of the semester, you will be able to find the grain line with the lead of your pencil. Going over to see if I can make it darker, and it's really not any darker. So I'm just gonna finish it straight across, staying right in that groove. I think this pencil is also a little too wide. Then I can skew my fabric to make that line more on grain. And like I said, if after you try this and it is not working, Go ahead and grab a ruler and do the best you can. Make a straight line right across the fabric. This one I'm going to do in pen so that it's actually visible for you. Right in the center of the fabric. We're going to do the same on both pieces. So against the long direction, you're going to find the center on both pieces. were you able to mark both of those, Ava and Riley? Perfect. So then once you have those marked, we're gonna go 11 to 12 inches down. So just about halfway. I could go, May. Yeah, I could go, May. And I'm going to go ahead and do the cross grain. You can use your pencil to find that cross grain. It's really great practice. I'm going to go ahead and just use a ruler. In fact, when I was doing this, when I was in school, that was the requirement. How to do it that way. And you'll do that for both pieces. And there was one instructor who showed us how to take a single yarn out of the fabric. And by taking that single yarn out, we had an absolute grain line defined without using a pencil. It took so much work and it took so long that I don't make people do that. It's unless you're going into couture sewing. In my opinion, it's not the most crucial thing. So now I have my two pieces with a cross.
And it's 12 inches from the bottom.
11 to 12 from either direction. Yeah, it's about in the middle. If your fabric is 44 wide.
I think I cut my fabric like very wrong. Like I thought you meant like 18 by 36.
Oh, that's fine. So
Okay.
then on the 36-inch wide, like this, then you'll have one line in the middle and then you'll have one 12 inches down. It's fine if your fabric's longer. My muslin is 44 inches wide. And so I have 22 by 18 pieces.
I ordered muslin and it's not coming until tomorrow. I do have a little bit, but I don't have I don't think I have all.
If you have that piece that you tore last week,
Yeah.
that's all you need for today.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Apologize for the earthquake, or I'll just do this. Excellent. So once you have, I'd love to see some thumbs up once you have your muslin prepped and marked for your two pieces. Yeah, this lady has been around the block. I should repair her. I want a new one because of course I do. Make sure you have your pins. So I have mine on my wrist because we are going to be using this. So Ava, since you have an adjustable dress form, you are going to find where you can place your pins because there are going to be channels in the dress form that are going to make it difficult to put pins there. So just keep that in mind as you work forward. So we're going to start by lining up our cross so that it's in the center going across our apex. So this across right here is this is lining on the center front seam. And this line is going right across the apex of the bust. So take your time. To line that up. I'm going to just put a bunch of pins in this, keeping this right on that center front seam. Up. We're only going to go down to the waist today, so you can stop at your waistline. And the only places I put pins are along this line, matching these lines up with those parts. So I'm not putting pins over here where there's no line, or down here where there's no line. I'm only putting pins on that line for right now. And I have a pin all the way up at the center neck. So right where the neckline meets the center front. And then I have a pins right at the waistline, finishing up my center front seam. However many pins you want in the middle, that's really kind of up to you as far as how you feel with control. You can start with many, you can start with few, because we're basically going to manipulate this piece of cloth until it lays flat against our dress form today. And we'll be pulling pins as we do that too. So once we have found our center front neck, I'm going to take my pen, my pencil, whatever it is that I have to mark it. And I'm going to make a little mark on my muslin, identifying my center front neck. And I'm going to start either right or left, whatever you're more comfortable, pushing the fabric. And I'm going to see that I'm going to create some ease here, right at that center front neck. And to alleviate that ease, I'm going to make some cut marks just above my center front so that I can start to lay this fabric flat on my dress form. Maybe you need one, maybe two. Usually don't need too many to start when we're just starting to lay it flat. So I'm focused on this top right shoulder area. Once I can feel this nice and flat across the upper chest and I find my shoulder seam, I'm gonna put a pin in it. Put a pin in it. And then with my pen, my tailor's chalk, my pencil, I'm gonna find that neckline, making sure that my fabric is nice and flat. And when I get to the place where my neckline meets my shoulder seam, I'm going to make another cross right there because that's my high point shoulder. That's a very important part to know on our muslin. Give yourself some time to find this and make it flat. And if you see it's not allowing you to make it flat, go ahead and add another clip. Don't clip past that line. You can usually cut up to 1/4 inch from it to make it, help it lie flat. And then just keep kind of petting it, bringing it flat. And once you're satisfied, go ahead and mark that shoulder seam. And you can feel these seams usually on the dress form themselves. They have their seam lines right there. I'm gonna draw my chalk right there. And I'm gonna come up about 1/4 inch to mark my shoulder tip. Because remember, it's right before it curves is our shoulder tip. I'm moving very fast right now. If you are still finding this, that's fine. I am moving very fast. Once I find one side, I'm going to do the same with the other. Get it to lay flat. I'm always clipping away fabric, releasing all the ease before I draw my line on. So I don't know where it's going to lay quite until I have it laying flat. I think today I might have been ambitious thinking we would do the front and the back. I think we're just going to focus on the front today. I taught this class at ASU. We had a 6-hour lab. We barely got to front and back with that. So I have had to cut the back shoulder so that it will lay flat on the back shoulder because there's a lot of curve here. I've had to cut all around the neckline about 6 times so that it lays flat right at the top. And as I'm getting it to lay flat, I need to remove the pins that were on that seam, that front seam. And only now have pins at my high point shoulder and along my shoulder line. Take a moment to get your chest to lay flat. I'm going to get a sip of water. I'll be right back. And I can turn her so you can see how flat I have this right against the chest of the dress form. I want her to be very smooth up and around the chest from this apex point up to the shoulder and the high point shoulder and the shoulder tip. That's where I'm looking for that smoothness. Draping is more of like an art. It's more like cooking. It's very tactile. You really start to get to know the mannequin. You get a good appreciation of fabric and fabric drape. I have my armhole. Once I'm happy with how my chest is, I'm going to go ahead and draw my armhole, clipping away the excess around here. I'm going to initially trace whatever the bottom of the crease is for the armhole on the mannequin. But when I transfer this, I'm going to drop it. So just keep that in mind. Go ahead and trace where the armhole plate is on your mannequin or dress form. Oh, I've had to cut wider fabric. Man, I'm barely getting to the side seam. I have a tiny one too. So my fabric's not quite wide enough to do a whole side seam. So I recommend, if yours isn't either, use today as a practice. And when you have enough muslin, go ahead and cut a piece that is at least, instead of 18, do 22 inches wide by 22 inches long. That should be long enough and wide enough for your piece. So I miscalculated. So I wanted my fabric to be able to come all the way over to my side seam. See how it's only right here and here. That's okay. We're going to use tonight as practice, and we will move forward next week. Perfect with the right width, because everyone will have enough muslin. But let's keep using tonight as practice to start to sculpt on our dress form. Once we have a nice flat chest, upper chest, we have our shoulders, we have our armholes marked. We're going to come down the bust, and we're going to find a point that meets on our waist. So I have my waistline right here. And remember, if you took your measurement at the top of the waist, the bottom of the waist, or the middle, I'm going to find this point. I'm going to find that princess line. And I'm going to fold over the fabric to create a dart right on that princess line. I want to make sure that it's nice and flush with the dress form. So I see that I have a lot of bubbling here, so I'm going to keep manipulating this fabric until I get this point here without the fabric coming away from the dress form. And once I have that point on my waistline, I'm going to lay my dart over on the waist. Cut away excess fabric from below the waist, because we don't want this to cause too much excess ease or tension. I'm actually going to take my dart and bring it towards the center front. Once I'm satisfied, I'm going to draw in my waistline and move to the other side. Again, this is going to be practice because our pieces probably don't go past our side seam, and because they don't go past the side seam, this is not going to be long enough. We need to be able to create this straight line here. So again, on this side, I don't want it to be concave here. I want it to be nice and straight across the bust. Yes, Kagome. It's crucial at this time that we get this fold on the inside of our dart to line up with that princess seam on our dress form. So I have my fold right here. This is my waistline. It lines up perfectly right here. This is an excellent practice, the run that we're doing tonight. When you found your two front darts, you should have a dress form that looks like this. You should have a mock-up muslin that looks like this. Two darts from the waist up to the bust. The point should come just before, as well as a defined neckline, armholes, and waistline. Actually, this will be great practice because next week we'll have the twill tape and we'll make this so much easier because we'll be able to find all of these points and feel all of these points on the dress form a lot easier. So this is good practice for this week. How's everyone's drape coming along? Can I see? Ooh, very nice. Good defined neckline. Go ahead and define those armholes as well. The armhole here, is it defined? Oh, I couldn't see with the light pencil.
Yeah, it's a little hard to see.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. So we're going to be doing this again, but with a larger piece for next week. And we're going to be building off of it with our back piece and then talking about ease. So this is probably going to take about 3 weeks to get this mock-up done, and that's fine. And we've got plenty of time, and we want to take our time to do this and really learn how to like mold the fabric like clay around the form. Let's see yours, Ava. Ah, that looks very nice. I could barely see your lines, but you have a pencil, I'm assuming.
Yeah, sorry, the pencil's kind of thin.
No worries. For the next time, if you don't have fabric by Monday, why don't you come into the store and we'll get you some fabric for
Yeah,
muslin?
it says it's coming tomorrow when I ordered it online. And yeah, yeah, so it'll be here by tomorrow.
No worries. Then we're gonna do pieces that are 24 by 22 for our front and back. That way we have plenty. We want to have more than enough to go around the side seams because we're gonna pin them the front to the back and make sure the balance is correct before we take it off and bring it into paper. And then Ashley, can I see yours? How's yours coming along? Ah, very nice. I see a little bit of pulling on one of the darts, and that's fine. You're like, just give yourself the time to kind of smooth this out. And this is the practice run with this front. Great clipping, very clean, great neckline. Shoulders look well defined, the armhole. Great. And then everybody, we're gonna want to kind of rock that dart point back a little bit. And that's going to keep us from having the pointy Madonna boob. Ava and Ashley, that might be too old of a reference for you, but she wore Gautier and rolled around in pointy cone bras a long time ago. So once we are satisfied with our dart placement, what we're going to do is we're going to take our line and we're going to mark just this outer fold of our dart. And we're going to mark where the dart comes on our waist. And we're going to mark that princess line on the waist. So I'm not necessarily needing to get it on the part underneath the dart here. I'm just trying to get this fold. Then I'm going to mark that inner fold to that princess line point. So I have my triangle marked like that. Same thing for the other side. Mark the fold of that dart that's sitting right on top. And that is our exercise in draping this week. So we should have 2 front darts that are sitting right on our princess seam that fold inside. We have our bust marked with our horizontal balance line here. We've got our center front seam here. And as long as we have all of this marked, we should, in theory, be able to take off our piece and see flat what our piece is going to be. So you can see those dart lines, right? On the dress form. So this line I didn't need, I only needed these parts for the dart. So that fold, I can go ahead and draw that in. And we will take our drape simply off today because we're going to start anew next week. And if you want, you can get started before class next week if you have time and you want to. And we have a piece. Does this look familiar, Riley?
Yeah.
So the rest of class today, after you've marked this practice, we are going to be working on our project ones. We just sent everyone the slides from the first week and the second week. Sorry for the banging. My husband is doing something in the kitchen. I don't know if you can hear it. It's very loud. I'm gonna go grab another sip of water. I'll be right back.
Christine.
Yeah.
So when it says cut on the fold,
Mhm.
you line, the obviously the grain direction. You line it alongside the fold where the fabric is, folded, and then so you just cut along, and so it's kind of like double.
Exactly. So you're cutting so it won't have a center seam because you're cutting it on the fold. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
I can see if I can find a picture online, or I can pull out some fabric and kind of demonstrate the fold. Or you think you got it? Okay, excellent.
I have a question. I have all this old denim, like from shorts and stuff, and I wanted to make I have this wrap shirt pattern that I wanted to use. But I was wondering, it's just like all scraps. Can I sew them to get all together and then use that as like my fabric?
You can know that if you have opposing grain lines and if you have different grain lines, that it's going to affect the way it falls. But
Okay.
I really encourage you to do that because you can find some really, really cool pieces by doing that. It makes it even more unique.
Yeah, I was gonna do them I was gonna sew them together uh,
Panels.
yeah, kind of like that because it's all different. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's have this pile up of from cutting shorts or something. So yeah, something like that. And then I was gonna sew I don't know if this would work or if it would look better. Um, if I just sew them wrong sides together, but I was thinking of doing right sides together and then doing like a little fray along where I sewed it, but I don't know if like
Do you want the frayed edge to show on this as being,
yeah,
so then
that's
you would sew it, yeah, I see what you're saying, right sides together, so you'd have the fray, or wrong side, so whichever way would have the fray. I would recommend though, if you're going to sew pieces together to then cut your pattern, I want you to sew it together twice. So
okay.
it's gonna act like a back stitch, because when you cut through that stitch line, it's gonna want to unravel. So if you can sew through it 2 or 3 times, it's gonna make sure that seam is very secure.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Hey everybody, it's
Yes, que come. Looking forward to seeing how your pieces you're sewing together come along, Ava. And you're gonna cut that dress. I'm excited to see you start sewing that, Ashley. And then Riley, of course, your dress with that beautiful velvet. I will see you next week. Look out for an email a little bit earlier in the week with the videos for today, so that if you need to review anything, you can. Take care, everyone.
See you next week.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.